So healing this trauma pattern can actually keep a relationship from totally disintegrating. So if you have a
Absolutely.
relationship that's falling apart around you, you got to do some work on yourself.
For sure. Yeah. Defrosting your energy body is literally the absolute best energy tool that I have ever found in all of my studies and hunting and searching for better tools, better processes. And it's fairly simple as far as energy work is
Yeah.
concerned. Um, but since there is just, so much, I noticed there's overarching patterns that fall under particular headers.
Yeah.
So, what I did is I made some energy transmissions to
Mm.
assist people in defrosting their energy body. And I hit the major themes, like what causes pain in a relationship.
Mhm.
So, there are things like abandonment, betrayal, neglect, abuse, loss, and grief.
Mm.
I mean, we have a lot of pain from things that have left our lives too. And it can trigger that abandonment wounding, right? Those two kind of go hand in hand. So I created these transmissions for people to look back in their life and say, what really hurt me emotionally the most?
Mhm.
And starting to realize that that is in some way, whether your brain acknowledges it or not, it is in some way preventing happy experiences right now, you know?
Yeah. Are you stuck when it comes to expressing yourself in a relationship? And would you like some strategies to free yourself to enter into a flow of exchange that reflects who you naturally are? Hello and welcome to Angelscapes, and I'm your host, Nancy Smith, your guide to living a soul powered life. You're invited to join my Facebook group, Soul Power Living, where we can continue discussions we started in these podcasts. Joining me in this episode is Heather Cypel, a relationship energy specialist as well as an intuitive psyche specialist. Heather helps self-aware women to experience the love their hearts knew and know that's possible, but maybe they're not quite there yet. Because after heartbreak, loss, and trauma, frozen energy forms within the psyche and it impacts our relationships. Heather talks about internal strategies that can unfreeze this energetic wound. So, a little bit about Heather Cypel. Heather is an energetic body specialist, and she helps women a lot. With over 13 years of experience in energy work, she's developed a unique process for clearing trauma that lives in the energy body, the layer that most traditional healers can't reach, or most traditional healing protocols can't reach. Her work helps women attract loving, supportive partners and create relationships that honor the natural needs. Thank you and welcome, Heather, for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I think it's very timely that you're here. And I think a lot of women are waiting to hear what you have to say, and men too. We focus on women here, but I want to broaden this. So let's talk about what frozen energy is. I find that fascinating.
Absolutely, yes. It was something that actually I became aware of when I was working in my own system. I had advanced healer practitioner training, and I had reached a glass ceiling with results in my own experience. And at one point, I just sent out a prayer from my heart. Saying that I'm really grateful for all the energy tools and processes that I've learned. But I really wanted something that worked faster and provided more consistent results. And it took a while, but some energy tools downloaded to me as I was working in my energy body. And it was just downright fascinating. And when I started working with one of these tools, I realized what was happening was very similar to what we would consider a melting kind of experience. And I was feeling so much better. each day that I would do this, I would just feel so much better. I had more of my own energy back and, had more stamina each day. The pains that were on my heart, the heavy weights that those emotional pains carry, that hold, were just starting to be lifted off. And I had been through psychology before energy work and, tried different processes for helping with trauma and all through energy work, just trying to feel better from those past pains. And that's a common thing, right? When we go on a healing journey. Pardon my throat. Actually, let me take a sip.
Water. Yes, yes. Relax.
And, when we go through healing work, sometimes it's you don't know a difference. It's like, well, this is great. This is better than things that I experienced before. I feel lighter. I comprehend a bit better. But this was unlike anything else that I had really ever experienced because of how profound the shifts were and how quick, relatively speaking,
Wow.
they
Wow.
were, and how profound, how broad reaching they were. How I started being able to perceive things differently. Awarenesses came through. I mean,
Yeah.
when we delve into energy world and angels and spirit guides and crystals and all the things, we learn a lot, and we learn mentally that we can manifest and that your current reality can be adjusted and you've got support. But the how to's of that, a lot of people are still struggling with,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
If you look at the actual tangible world and what's really happening, there's not all that much shift happening. And it was my intention to create more of an autonomy for my own self, having agency more inside of my own system to be able to co create better than I was having experience with, than I was
Yeah.
seeing most people experience. And I grew up in church when I was little and had my first spiritual awakening when I was 4. And so I
Wow.
was studying theology ever since I was 4 years old, deep theology. And it was more of a communication between my heart and spirit.
Mhm.
And
So
whatever it
sweet.
was that I needed to know
Yeah.
came through. And, whenever I heard them talk about how Jesus said, you can do all of these things and more, I was like, all right, I'm ready to learn these things. And many years after being in church, it dawned on me, hey, wait a minute, we didn't learn any of those things, like
Yeah.
nobody's doing this, all of
Yeah.
these things and more in this space. And so whenever I had my conscious mind awakening and I was learning about energy,
Yeah.
I had that renewed experience, like, oh great, we can co-create.
Yes. Yeah.
And then there's not actually all of that much happening. It's like people
Yeah.
have to put in a lot of effort and intention and even maybe practices to manifest at all. And I just started saying, okay, there's something more here. There's something more that we can learn. And so whenever these energy tools downloaded to me and I started working with them, and things, heavinesses were defrosting off of my energy body, and I was having more connection with spirit, I
Mhm.
realized that a lot of our energy bodies are frozen. And I wasn't just doing that for myself, I was also doing remote transmissions for people in a small paid group that I had. And I noticed that their energy bodies were very frozen as well. Even so, like generally, you would only freeze like to the edge of your body because your energy body is a part of your energy field that's housed within the ramification of your physical body, right? It builds your physical body, then your psyche, then builds on top of that, then your emotions
Yeah.
are that
Yeah.
like final layer that pull it all together. And so it's the blueprint of who we are. And so I, really delved into it. Was like, okay, if we're frozen, if so much of our energy body is frozen, our energy body is what communicates with spirit to co create.
Mhm. So wait, let's step back a little bit. How does this freezing start? You started to talk a little bit about it, and
Yes.
and what is it doing to you when it's frozen?
So, what I realized is that it's actually trauma, but it expanded the definition of trauma for me. When we hear the word trauma, when we think about it, when we, feel our own previous traumatic
Mhm.
experiences still alive in our emotions, and in our physical body, we relate trauma to the pain, right?
Okay, yeah.
But what unfolded to me was that trauma is something that happened and your system did not know how to handle it in that split second.
Mhm.
Even if your brain wrapped around it, a minute later and it was like, oh, we justified it out and, made some concessions for why this happened. Our energy body still took that blow and took that
Mhm.
impact.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's like ice, if you will. Like if a bunch of ice froze into a space, but the pain that's in there is like things that get stuck
Mhm.
in the ice, right? So if you're thinking about ice outside, it might be things like leaves or sticks or maybe little critters that got frozen in this ice. And that's the pain that we're accessing. And that can be activated when we see patterns like that happening elsewhere or when people do those same types of behaviors to us. But what I was really drawn to the fact of is that this ice energy is our own energy that got frozen.
Okay.
The emotions got
Yeah.
stuck in there. But what that means for us is that we don't have access to any of our energy that got frozen.
Oh, so it's a protective measure, but it's not helpful.
Well, you've noticed if people have gone through extremely traumatic situations, their capacity diminishes.
Yeah.
So the bandwidth that they have doesn't last as long. There could be brain fog or glitches that happen, as they're trying to process data. Their emotions come more prevalently forward and can't be expressed in quite the most finessed way, right? It's
Mm.
because I use the analogy of imagine like you have a glass and you fill it with ice and it's filled from, the top to bottom with ice and then you pour water in it and you use that water throughout the day, the more ice in there, the less water that you're going to have to use.
Mm.
So when you go to sleep every night and you fill back up, you can only use so much that of the fluid energy, right? And people will say, I'm exhausted. I'm still giving from an empty cup. And I say, technically, your cup is not empty. It's actually filled to the top. It's just with ice. It's with unusable energy, right?
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
it's
yeah.
important to begin a process of defrosting just as maintenance.
So how does this it's an energy pattern that's frozen, and probably from some trauma, like you said, but you're walking around causing more trauma because you don't have access to your whole self. But how
Yes.
can somebody recognize that they are operating like from this frozen energy in a trauma energy pattern? And how can they see that that's what's affecting the relationship?
Well, it's a lot of the emotional reactions. Even so, a lot of people, whenever they hear me talk, they're like, oh, that means freeze mode of the trauma response. No, when you're interfacing with frozen energy, it could be all of the trauma responses fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? It's going to be whatever your system needs to do to be safe in that moment, right? But you're still operating out of
Okay.
that trauma response.
Okay. Okay.
So, anytime emotions, when you feel it in your body and they feel stuck, or if you're not able to feel energy in your body and you're having a reaction on someone, or you feel like something's caving in on you and you're, collapsing under it, that is definitely frozen energy, right? Because we're not in a state of our maturity. We don't have autonomy right there. If our emotions get heightened, our wherewithal goes down, right? We're kind of
Yeah.
operating a little bit, off kilter or out of control
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
way.
And that will
And it
definitely impact. what's
Yeah.
going on around you.
Absolutely. And romantic relationships have a way of being so close to us that they can, kind of trigger and access all different kinds of experiences because essentially you're sharing a life with someone. So it impacts all of you. So they can definitely light up some old traumas unwittingly, you know?
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, we trigger each other all the time. I have no clue that we're doing it.
Yes.
However, um, sometimes that trigger is off of something really innocent,
Yeah.
something minor, and then it becomes a huge thing, and everyone's left. What just happened? But
Well, if you think about it, the reason that we would experience trauma is because when we were young and this happened, we were afraid for our safety in some sort of way. Emotional safety is a huge thing that, especially when we're older, back in the 80s, 70s, 60s,
yeah,
people didn't process much about the emotional health of people and how to interface kindly and gently and not cause more damage, right? It was I mean, they were going everywhere, just operating off the cuff and is much more in the mind, about like, well, I just did this, you should deal with it, and be tough. It was quite the messaging back then.
yeah, it was pretty rough. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Um,
And so our systems registered a lot of emotional unsafety because of the experiences that we had. The problem is that when something freezes like that, it keeps that pattern active. So
okay.
even though you grow up
So wait a
and
minute. Something
you
freezes in us. Wait, I just say this. Something freezes within us, and that energy pattern is active. It's just not stopped in place and it never to be go forward again. It's still active.
well, so it's frozen, meaning it's going to repeat that pattern again,
Oh,
like a broken
okay.
record.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can try to think our way out of it. We can try to choose people who aren't going to treat us that way, but
Okay.
inevitably, unwittingly, they could do a behavior that will look to your subconscious like something that had upset you when you were little. Or they could be actually doing that exact same pattern,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And when we have that pattern active, and it's this unpleasant pattern that we don't like, and it's just active, it's beaming out of us with every heartbeat. A lot of the times we think of our nerves as like our sensory
Yeah.
feeling,
Yeah.
but our nerves is what pulses our heartbeat out through our whole body and into the universe, which includes for all of our patterns, the good ones
Uh,
and the ones we really wish we could wake up tomorrow and not have, right?
right.
But with every heartbeat, it's pulsing out. So you're
Yeah.
co-creating with spirit in all of the patterns, all of the ones you like
Okay.
and the ones you don't like.
So
So
yeah.
spirit does show us
Okay.
exactly, it brings us exactly what our system is emanating.
Okay, all right. So going through the patterns, I'm just going to repeat a little bit. So you can have this frozen energy. It's basically a thing that continues. It's a response pattern that continues no matter what's in front of you, and this you can maybe recognize it or not recognize it, but the trauma reaction pattern can disintegrate a relationship, even good relationships that are right in front of you and they're fine, and because of how you are interpreting what's coming your way, which is through a frozen system that can't see the present moment, I would guess. Does that sound about right?
And it is very sad to watch something like that happen, where, especially if it's your loved ones, or
I
your
know.
own self, and you're
Yeah.
like, I can't stop this.
Yeah.
No matter how much I try, no matter how much our hearts love one
Yeah.
another, it can become what feels like toxic. But I
Yeah.
always say each person, it's our own healthcare, right? It's not for someone to not trigger you, right? That's not
Correct.
their
That's
responsibility.
not, it can't be there. They'll never know. They can't, they don't, you can't read, you can only read somebody's mind or somebody's energy so far.
That's right.
You're
And
responsible for your own self, right?
that's right. And what's happening inside of ourselves, even if it is painful, upset, emotions is ours to deal with.
Well, so healing this trauma pattern can actually keep a relationship from totally disintegrating. So if you have a
Absolutely.
relationship that's falling apart around you, you got to do some work on yourself.
For sure. Yeah, defrosting your energy body is literally the absolute best energy tool that I have ever found in all of my studies and hunting and searching for better tools, better processes. And it's fairly simple as far as energy work is
Yeah.
concerned. Um, but since there is just, so much, I noticed
Yeah.
there's overarching patterns
Yeah.
that fall under particular headers.
Yeah.
So, what I did is I made some energy transmissions to
Mm.
assist people in defrosting their energy body. And I hit the major themes, like what causes pain in a relationship.
Mhm.
So, there are things like abandonment, betrayal, neglect, abuse, loss, and grief.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of pain from things that have left our lives too. And it can trigger that abandonment wounding, right?
Mhm.
Those two kind of go hand in hand. So I created these transmissions for people to look back in their life and say, what really hurt me emotionally the most?
Mhm.
And starting to realize that that is in some way, whether your brain acknowledges it or not, it is in some way preventing happy experiences right now, you know?
Yeah. I think I
Yeah.
better sign up for I'm going through.
It's beautiful,
Yeah.
especially considering it's super easy energy work when you download it to your phone. I always say
Yeah.
upload it into the player, set it to repeat, put the volume down, and then all you have to do
Yeah.
is remember to click play every night before you go to
Oh,
sleep.
that's lovely. Oh my
You're
God.
defrosting for, 6 to 8
Yeah.
hours a night, however much you sleep. I mean, I sleep a little bit more than that.
Good. Oh, yeah. So you have a free energy transmission on your website, I
I do. I have a free mini one, but if you're putting it on repeat, it doesn't really matter if it's the short one or the long one. And it's the general one. I didn't choose a specific theme, so it's just to delete trauma, whatever that registers
Mm.
as on a person's system. And I've had people who downloaded the free one and that was all they listened to, and they reported back to me wonderful, wonderful results and
Wow.
experiences that they've had, even to the degree of being able to hear it in their voice. Their voice was just so much stronger and clearer. You could feel more of them being
Mhm.
active. And especially after a major event just happened, when like trauma is right now, it is an amazing tool to have available, even if you don't listen to it every night, which I mean, I still do, quite frankly. Every night
Wow.
I go to sleep, I'm like, why not? I mean,
Yeah.
it's clicking play is not hard, and there's active energy work done on my own system while I'm sleeping.
So,
It's bee's knees.
yeah, is this a sound, or is this you talking, or
There is some sound. That's why I put it on silent actually, is because I'm very light to wake up, so if I hear even my own voice talking, I'll
okay,
like be pulled out of sleep. So I just put it down all the way down because it's an energy transmission.
okay.
So, I do talk on the
Oh,
recording for those who want to like
okay.
actively listen to it, and they can hear me, but a lot of it is silence.
Ah.
Yeah.
So you can find this energy transmission on um, www.heathercypel.com. And you could go to her website and it'll be there, or you could just do slash energy, energy,
Dash.
energy, I could talk, energy dash transmission .html, but just Heather Cypel, CYPEL.com, and I think everyone should go through your website. I found your website really fascinating. There are all kinds of ideas
Thank
there
you.
for working through relationships. But
Yes.
I know that we focused this on women, helping women, but this frozen energy is not masculine or feminine. It's all people's, that
It's true. However, it is to be duly noted, as I have observe that, we live in a world that is electric, right? And so we know that electric energy is masculine energy, magnetic energy is feminine energy. And
Okay.
so when there is a difference in a man and a woman's energy body, because there's a polarity of the operating system, right? When
Okay.
you're looking at just the field, you don't necessarily notice that. But when you go into the operating system levels, like I hang out in the operating system levels because that's what constellates a human. So if I'm looking to resolve an issue for a particular human, we're going to look at their specific, unique operating
Yeah.
system and coding. And so when you get into that area, you can notice drastic difference between a man's energy body and a female's energy body. And so so a man's energy body runs a lot of electric energy, and it's designed to house that much electric energy. But a female's body is designed to house the majority of magnetic energy. Well, our world doesn't train us on how to use magnetic energy at all. Most women would be like, what? And it is a bit confounding. I've learned a lot in recent years, just working with my own system. But because we're taught how to push out so much electric energy, effort so much, do all the things, and not roll on a slower rhythmic cadence like the magnetic energy wants to, our females' energy bodies have a lot more frozen energy on it. But
Okay.
more importantly, is that the female processes that the operating system uses isn't valued in our society. It's not
Really?
taught.
Yeah.
We're not really trained. It's like thinking of like work, 9 to 5 jobs. That is completely opposite of how a female system would operate functionally, right? And it's tons of efforting, it's tons of electric energy.
Yeah.
And so, just via simple misogyny and or abuse, females' energy bodies get very frozen. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't put my phone on silent. Give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. Yeah, and so it is the case that men's energy body definitely has frozen energy on it, especially if you grew up in a really harsh environment and you weren't acknowledged and cultivated as a child. Certainly you'll have
Yeah.
more frozen energy. And definitely men can use this energy tool, to defrost their system more. But when it comes to relationships, what I find is almost no matter how much frozen energy
Mhm.
is on a man's system, if the female system is pulsing that magnetic pulse from her system
Okay.
and
Okay.
her heart has a desire for something, that man just automatically creates the experience of her heart's desire on this earth plane. It's just like,
Wow.
I've seen it happen more times. I've experienced it personally. If a woman feels like, say, for example, they're sitting on the couch watching television. It's 11 p.m. Most places are closed. And she just gets this heart's desire for chocolate
Yeah.
ice
Oh.
cream, and all of a sudden that man will be like, do you want some chocolate ice cream? I want some chocolate ice cream. I'll drive across town. But if she comes from her mind and is like, hey, so I want some chocolate ice cream. And he's like, everything's closed. What are you talking about? Right? It's a whole different process. It's not to tell a man what to do. He needs to feel that heart's desire coming from her
Oh, you're
system
kidding.
as a pulse.
So tonight on the couch, I'm gonna like chocolate ice
No,
cream,
it has to
chocolate
be a
ice cream.
heart's desire. It has to
Chocolate
be a
ice
pulse.
cream, chocolate ice cream. Oh, could you just
Yeah,
feel
and this can happen even when people are sleeping. They could be woken up with this data because it's running through the energy body. But the more frozen a female's energy body is, they're not going to hear that pulse. That pulse is not going to be put out.
it?
And so, just like a man won't hear that pulse on a frozen energy system, the universe doesn't either, right? It doesn't
Oh my
respond.
gosh. Yeah, I had no idea. I did.
Yeah.
Wow. So
So
this
you can co-create really well by defrosting your energy body, and you can allow your
okay,
magnetic
everyone out
energy.
there who are struggling with manifestation, you call Heather.
Yes.
So transmission, so we can start manifesting those things that we're dreaming of. Let's go.
Absolutely, because women are the purveyors of culture on this planet. We raise children and grandchildren. We are, friends, and we take care of our family. We cultivate and nurture society. It
Mhm.
is very important for the pulses of our system and the desires of our heart to come through. And it's most important for our needs to be met. A
Yeah.
lot of women don't know how to make that happen.
Yeah, no, I'm with them too. It's like I would think I have to work twice as hard and
Yeah.
prove myself to all these things. And here it is, the energy um is probably just frozen and it's not vibrating out to say
Yeah.
um new shoes or
Yeah. Exactly.
whatever. But uh so there's a couple questions I really want to ask. First of all, you talked about when you're a child, and we talked about this a little bit before we got on. Is um, we are trained from birth many times. We're entrained or we're acclimated to bad behavior, depending on the level of dysfunction in the family. Maybe it could be subtle, maybe it could be overt abuse. And then we kind of, that's the way the world is. So you go out in the world expecting that. And then I don't know if that energy is frozen as a child or not, but then we accept what's happening as this is how it is. And then many women find, oh man, find themselves in this deep hot water that they have no idea how they even got there. And I wanted to ask you about that energy pattern. Is,
It's the most common one, I would say,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But, you have to think of it this way, is every system is unique.
Okay.
And there's so many layers that constellate one person, right?
Yeah.
Coding is really helpful to get to the specifics that's going on in someone's system, but certainly there are patterns. Which ones they are is specific to the people, but yes, we all end up, having some difficult experience, some trauma, some way our needs aren't getting met when we're little. And it's maybe not because our parents didn't love us. Maybe it's because they just didn't know better. They didn't have those capacities of how we needed to be interfaced with. They didn't even know those were particular needs of ours. A lot of the times we grow up as adults and don't even know what our particular needs are.
Mhm.
And a lot of the time when I train people, I say your system type needs this experience like it needs air to breathe, because you wouldn't
Okay.
believe how many adults who are very self-aware, even energy practitioners, who don't know what some of their core needs are. But if you analyze like their system types, you can clearly see what those needs are. But we go through life assuming we don't need that particular experience. And like, say, for example, 40% of the people on this planet have a deep intrinsic desire for positive reinforcement, words of affirmation, confirmation, validation. And our society makes that wrong. Like, oh, you need to be whole on your own. You don't need to care about what other people think. But they need that like they need air to breathe. So they
Yeah.
go and make it wrong that they're not getting a need met, but like, oh, I am so needy. I am wrong for this. And that's not true. It's that we're not oriented to getting those particular needs met. So it
Yeah.
shows our own pattern that we were taught when we were little, like, oh, suck it up, be quiet, you don't need that, whatever.
Right,
And
right.
then you go through life and you yourself are participating unwittingly in crafting that very same experience for you,
Yeah,
right?
so let's take 5 steps back here. So
Mhm.
not everybody's the same. You're saying that we have different energy types or just different archetypes or just different types within ourselves. How do you know? How do you can I sit there and talk with you and you say, "Oh, you're this type," or I mean,
For a little, yeah, after a little while I can,
yeah.
ask a series of questions. Actually, right now I'm in the process of recording that training,
Oh,
the different energy body archetypes, because while there's lots of systems of coding out there, there's
yeah,
astrology, human design, Myers-Briggs, the Enneagram, and
yeah,
they can help us learn bits of ourselves and I love learning more about myself. So I've explored all of those, not masterfully to where I could teach them all, but the energy body archetypes was the one system that I needed. Like I couldn't, I don't, I'm so grateful I got this
Yeah.
training because it's really like a core part of the operating system of a
Okay.
person. And so, you know what people need and what people's major woundings will be. You know what their patterns are. You know where their areas of brilliance are, and you know where they're not really going to be able to do that kind of thing. And so it becomes a hell of a lot easier when you're raising a
Mhm.
child to know what their energy body archetype is so you can meet them where their needs are and not unwittingly suffocate them, right? And not get a
Yeah.
need met, right? Which happened to me whenever I learned about this. My daughter was in her late teens and actually leaving the house. And so I was like, oh my God, I would have done things differently. I didn't prepare her in certain ways because I didn't know that her system type needs conflict like air
Really?
to breathe, right? She needs
Really? Oh,
conflict. And that is it's just one of the system types that does conflict, but they need it. And my system is coded, I'm telling you, from head to toe as a resolution person. I
oh
am
my God.
masterful and gifted at resolving. So she would try to conflict with me and I would like create a resolution. And it was like, right. And so I felt really awful when I realized that not only did I not give my kid a core need that she had, but also I didn't train her how to go in the world and do healthy conflict. That's a mad
Ooh,
skill that
that is
somebody
a
would need
mad
to
skill.
know.
Yeah.
Like, especially
Yeah.
if their system,
Yeah.
it's a core intrinsic part of their being, right? And our society makes conflict wrong. And I mean, even psychology will say, oh, well, that's bad behavior. And if you can conflict in a healthy way, it's not bad behavior. It's actually healthy for
Yeah.
society.
No, I think it's a needed. Um, well, we don't need people picking fights with us, but it's a needed. It's needed clearly
Definitely
for
can show
growth and
contrast.
and exploration and curiosity and all of that stuff. So,
Yep.
my gosh, so when you get this figured out, let me know and we'll have you on the show talking about it again. So I'm like
Okay. Yes.
really fascinated with this. So I've clearly raised my children incorrectly, but they've survived. But so you can, from a child, never have a certain need met, and your parents had no idea you had this need, and
Right.
then you grow up thinking, and this is where we left off. You grow up thinking, well, I'm just never going to be happy, or I'm just never going to this, that, and the other thing. So you create the world around you to match what you grew up with because that's what you know, and that's where that's where you're headed out. And so you found a partner, you found a group of friends that won't meet your needs. And so you
That's right.
feel tired and, kind of lost and blah, blah, blah. This is really quite the cycle. Um, so,
Which can be broken. We
yeah,
can, it's a journey, but if you have clarity
yeah,
on what your end result wants to be, you're like, okay, I actually want to interface in a healthy way. Okay, well, put
yeah,
that buoy out there. And if you can actually learn about your own coding and what specifically your needs are
right.
and what's off kilter, a lot of the times that we've gone through healing work, even in the energy space, it ends up being meandering and winding, and 10 years goes by and you're like, am I all that different? It was my tangible world,
Yeah,
any
yeah,
different.
yeah.
But if you've got clarity on what it is that you want to resolve, you definitely can achieve the results. I teach in a more structured manner, I guess you would say. It's like, okay, in a more matter of fact manner. It's like, I know a lot of people do these like experiential things, but I do very specific things, right? If you want this result,
Mm.
we develop this particular strategy of energy sessions, right? We do this
Interesting.
little
Yeah.
pocket of work.
So
And if you want to work over
you're
here, we do this little series
okay.
of sessions.
So you're actually you have clients, but I just jumping in here. You also teach people how to do this.
Yes, I do have an
You're an
energy
energy
school.
teacher.
Yeah.
Energy school. signing up for that too. So
Yes.
it's the wanted to go back to that example of being entrained in a certain way, and your needs haven't been met, and all the things we just talked about. And so you're walking into the world, and you're finding out that what your life, what you're creating, you're not really happy with. So you go and you get some healing. You go in and you start to really find out, this is what floats my boat. This is what's really nurturing me. And I never knew that before. And now I can't get enough of it. And then something yucky happens, something bad happens. We talked a little bit about the world outside, the news, the social media, that it's bringing us back to what we just got ourselves out of. Can you be re-triggered into frozenness?
So you could be reactivated or
React.
re-triggered, yes. But what that means is that energy never left your body, right? In a lot of the healing processes, we make ourselves feel better. We can believe it's gone. We try our best to ignore things that might activate it. We get really good at putting up a protection mechanism or a barrier, but we're really just simply ignoring what's going on. If at all, ever, any emotion can be triggered out of you, it means it's always been still in you, right? So
Good point. Okay.
it's not a bad thing to be triggered, but it's very unfortunate if you don't have proper tools to contend with it, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of tools that'll help you feel better in the moment, like tapping, for example. You can tap and it'll help you come back to your present moment so that you essentially don't, you're not in that emotional state at the moment. Um, but if you're processing, there's like certain types of energy work that I've been through myself, where, it's like a forehead to the floor, grieving and processing all of this emotion, all of this deep feminine wounding, all the pains from your life. And, you're crying and you're being with it. And that really damaged my body.
Yeah.
Oh man, because it flushes all the adrenaline, the cortisol, the dopamines. And
Oh,
I went down to 100 pounds because it was just, my body was like, I can't handle this because it's toxic emotions. It's unprocessed, unhealthy, painful. A lot of us pick up collective pieces. So if something happened to us, but it also happened to our mom, our grandmother, our great
yeah.
grandmother, all the way up our lineage line, you're dealing with compounded emotions and trigger, right? You're not meant to process that. It's like trying to eat food for 1,000 people in one meal, right? You're not meant to
Yeah.
digest this, right? It's frozen on your system. When you start defrosting, I say these emotions are like an air bubble inside of a block of ice. When you defrost and it gets defrosted to the point where it's just it has a little opening, that emotion flushes out
Oh,
and it is never to be felt again. I have actively sat there and tried to like trigger myself back into a memory, put myself back into that experience
it's
that
gone.
hurt so bad. I can't feel it again.
Wow.
Yeah. And I've had some extreme trauma, that
Yeah. Yeah.
was so extreme that for over 25 years, I couldn't think of it for a split second. Otherwise, the nightmares would start coming back.
Oh
Like,
my.
so extreme. And I can't feel the pain of that experience anymore. So that's how I know that the previous modalities or processes of trauma relief that I had used didn't do the thing because
Okay.
I was still able to hurt. And now that I've defrosted a lot,
Right.
I don't hurt.
So a good thing to do would be to understand that if you're being triggered again, whatever healing process you do, you need to call Heather, but you need to you still have work to do, because some people feel like I'm never going to get past this. This is always going to be here, and I'm aware of it now, and I know what to do. I have certain things that I do to when I get to that place. But you're saying there's a possibility of healing, and it's
Yeah.
totally gone.
Well, at this level, and I mean, again, I'm trained on so many different types of energy work and different processes. Um, Before, I would say that that is called healing work. This process that I'm using is called resolving. Like,
Revol-
it's
Revolving, resolving, resolving. It's like that stain. spray called Resolve.
Yes.
Yeah. That
Yes.
is, it's just like, this is, we're talking miracles here. This is really exciting. This
Yes.
is something that I would love. Well, let's take just a little bit of minute, because we've been talking for a while, and talk about who you are and how do you get a hold of you. Um, Heather, Heather's email is internalstrategies247@gmail.com. So, okay to say that. We already said it's too late. And
Yes.
you can find her website at heathercypel.com. Please look for her free energy download for trauma. And what else are we have? We are on Facebook, of Internal Strategies on Facebook. I found that Facebook page to be very helpful as I went through it. And and do you have a I was confused about looking, tell me what's on your website. How do people contact you? Can they make an appointment with you off your website? Or do you have offer, we could sit down and talk and tell you what I have to offer kind of thing?
Sure. I do. So I have like a one-on-one 1 hour session, which is talking, right? Coaching or however you want to say it. We can get clear. We can get the mind clear on what's needed. I do have a free 15-minute call, but it's on one of the pages. It's not like on the main page. It's like,
Mhm.
so for example, I have a container that's a 1 month direct work one-on-one with me called breakup repair, to where if you've undergone a breakup, whether it was recent or a long time ago and you're still hurting, breakup repair is an important one. So
Okay.
that page will have, for example, the 15-minute free call button
Okay.
on
Okay.
there.
Okay.
And then I have one called relationship repair, where if you're still in a relationship and you would like some assistance for 1 month,
Yeah.
that's a 1 month container that's on there. Then I have my energy school. That is for advanced practitioners. It's not
Okay.
entry level. So the way that I would say if somebody was interested in that is look on that page. It's called Relationship Mastery,
Okay.
and look at the skill sets that are needed, because when we learn energy work, we develop skill sets, and different modalities, different processes teach you different skill sets, right? So there's two main ones that are needed for you to even be able to do the energy work. So
Okay.
in that energy school, I teach people how to defrost. So you don't have to listen to an energy transmission. You can actually learn that process for yourself. And then in module 2, we go and work the energetics that are exposed after being defrosted, right? That's where your patterns get resolved.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can shift what somebody's even attracted to subconsciously in a person, because when your wounds aren't playing out anymore, then you're going to naturally be drawn to other types of experiences.
Okay. So,
But
yeah.
also, I have a free Facebook group where you can experience lots of training. I teach about energetic patterning and what to look for, what to know, all sorts of interesting things. It's called Modern Consciousness.
Oh, modern consciousness. Well, let's take a look at that one. Okay. So you could just look into, I'm writing this down so we can go on the notes.
Sure.
And that's exciting. In this energy school, will people, once they're finished with it, be able to do this work with other people? Or is it just for
This
yourself?
type of energy work is very, I mean, other than teaching it, you can't really do it with someone else, because they have to defrost their energy body for a while before doing a session, right? You have to get those energetics exposed first. So certainly if people want to create like a 3 or 6 month container to work with someone, they could do that. Sure.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Okay. Beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's coaches out there that do work with people long term.
Yeah.
So I would think a coach studying with you would be a great idea to add to their arsenal of
Absolutely.
tools. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So let me think, I'll go back to my questions and say, have we covered everything? I have so many more questions. So you have a pathway that heals, unfreezes, and then heals people to the point where they're no longer entrained to that behavior that triggers them. That
Right.
is beautiful. That is awesome. Um, be- I was thinking about this just off the cuff. If you were saying that women um, live from, ask from their hearts, even if it's not even verbal,
Right.
and a male will hear that call or not, depends on where they are, in their world.
Sure.
Um, if we become unfrozen, this is an idea.
Mhm.
More and more women become unfrozen and are vibing out from their hearts what it is that they truly want. Would that balance the feminine, masculine energy in this world that is so out of balance?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can see it in sometimes different movies when a woman has a deep passion and she connects via her heart with a man.
Hmm.
The man makes it his mission or his purpose, right? To make that thing happen in this world. And that's when you can look out and you can see a couple who's doing that. You're like, that is the quintessential, um, I guess you would say, marker for healthiness in
Okay.
romantic relationship. And if that's not happening, the very first thing that I would do is to look at the woman's heart and see how much frozen energy is on it. Because
Mm.
a lot of the time, even though her heart might be bleeding and desiring the very things that she wants, we have a way of not being able to have that pulse come through, right? We can articulate that to our girlfriends, you know, be like, yeah, you are such a wonderful woman. You like this should be something that you have. You deserve that. Deserving is so much a thing. It's more like logistics. It's more like, well, that beacon isn't getting out. I mean,
Okay.
it's simple in that respect.
So, okay, ladies, if you're listening to this, you have a project. You're going to get yourself unfrozen,
Yes.
and then you're going to heal what's inside you, and then you're going to start beaconing out what you want to create in the world.
Yeah,
And then that would lay out such a beautiful foundation for men or masculine energy to respond to.
that's right.
I love it's like that giving birth, that holding that energy, that the true feminine magnetism and the male electrical get her done energy.
Exactly. Well, and the way that I describe feminine energy is not the way that you hear people talking about feminine energy, because they talk about the expression of what is feminine and what is masculine, and it's completely distorted. If you're looking from the angle of the operating system, I made a post recently that was like, protection is not masculine. There's a feminine way of doing protection, and then there's a masculine way of doing protection. The two different people are going to do that differently, providing. There's a feminine process, there's a masculine process. So when you break it down into what's feminine energy and what's masculine energy, it makes people think in this incorrect direction. And I say, like a lot of, I mean, even advanced practitioners have told me, well, I can't be in my feminine right now because I have too much to do. And it's like, no, you are it. Like, you are feminine energy. You are magnetic. You're a polarity that's supposed to run the majority of magnetic energy. It's just like men have more testosterone, but we have testosterone. Men have some estrogen, but we have more estrogen, right? It's like our process is prevailing. It's not we don't have electric energy. It's that our system wasn't designed to output that much electric energy. It'll
Mhm.
exhaust you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, you remember the old halogen light bulbs where if you had to change it, you would have to turn it off and wait like 10 minutes before it was cool enough, right?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah. Yeah.
so much energy. And now these LED light bulbs, you can unscrew it while it's still lit because it's not that hot.
Oh.
That's what I mean. The halogen was like burning so much electric energy, but the LED is doing the exact same job, the exact same things,
Just
but
separating
it's
something
doing
else.
it with less energy.
Okay.
So a person who's operating with magnetic energy can actually get more done in a day than if they were using electric energy because their system's not designed to run that much electric energy through their system. So
Okay.
it's not to say that you have a life that's just of leisure and you move around slowly and you're independently wealthy. Like that's not feminine energy. It's like it's a distortion of the perception. You can handle so much more when you're not
Mhm.
spending as much energy on each task,
Okay.
when your emotions aren't raging and you're being upset by somebody's doing this and you have to take over the responsibility, that's burning a lot of energy,
Yeah.
right? So if you can allow more magnetic energy to run through your system, you have a lot more bandwidth, and then you have energy left over to be able to fall asleep at night.
Ooh,
I didn't even know it took energy to fall asleep. You get to that point where you're so
okay.
exhausted you can't fall asleep. That's
Oh,
a
it's
thing.
true. That is a real thing. You're just laying there going, "Take me now." I'm just,
Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes I need to book in. I'm going to bed, but I just got to be ready to just chill there for a little bit until.
Yeah,
Wow, it's
I
interesting.
know. So
Wow.
we do a lot in my space. We definitely. If somebody's in my energy school, I say it's like an overhaul to their system.
Oh my gosh, how long is the energy school for?
It's a whole year, 3 modules. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. That's awesome. Well, you have done some fantastic work, some very unique individual way of looking at and articulating the energy processes. I'm so proud of you for. No, I'm serious. It's so unique and good, and I'm so glad to explore that with you on this podcast. We can't stay on forever. I would like to, but definitely when you get this next thing, be in touch and let's get this out there because I feel like that's a gold mine. For,
Yeah, it's an
absolutely.
important thing to learn,
Yeah.
especially for raising children and especially for romantic relationships. I mean, it really
Absolutely.
can shift things a lot when you comprehend where someone's coming from,
Yeah.
what their operating system is doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, if you understand your own operating system and you're
Yeah,
saying, I need, could you do this for me? Because they might not even have a clue. And you might have to
exactly.
say it 100 times, but they'll get it. No, but mostly you're providing it for yourself. You're learning to provide something for yourself that you didn't know you need. Oh, it's fantastic. So we're gonna have to come to a close, and I thank you
Absolutely.
so much. Is there anything you want to add before we end this episode, Heather?
I would end this episode by saying give yourself lots of grace. This is a challenging world that we live in, and navigating it isn't simple. And, all of your emotions are valid, but they're also a lot of the time showing you what needs to be resolved. And when you do resolve them, it'll relieve suffering from your system. So, going on a journey to heal is actually going to make you feel a lot better in the long run.
Oh gosh, that's so sweet. Thanks. And so I'm saying signing off now. Everyone, remember that you can reach me at angelscapes.net. And there's a Facebook page called Soul Power Living, Tools to Create a Life You Want and Love. You can find me through there. And for now, I want you to remember to live in the power of your soul and connect to all these Heather and all the people that we bring on to this podcast because they're going to help you plug in to some powerful things, get you on a pathway that you love and that you're proud of. So for now, stay safe, stay in grace, love yourself, and do the best you can in getting to that soul power. So till next time, take care.
Are you